Hey guys, welcome to another Jafo Paints video. Still working with Massive Darkness. Here is our lovely man we're working with today. That's right, it's Siegfried, the Pit Fighter Berserker. If you've been following along with our painting videos so far, this will give you a completed base set of heroes. Here is our lovely warrior guy that we're going to make. So let's take a look at some of the paints that we got. So we've got our two-tone flesh, Bugman's Glow, and Cadian Flesh Tone, which of course to that, if I can find it, we will add our Reichland Flesh Shade. We're going to be using some Abaddon Black to do his hair up today. As always, our leather will be done in XV88. We're going to do woodworking on the edges of the shield here, or the main part of the shield. We'll do that in Mournfang Brown. We're going to work with the edging of all of the metal on his armor pieces and on his shield. We'll do that in Ironbreaker. The edges of his hilts will be done in Retributor Armor. Just a little bit of pink horror to stick into his mouth to kind of give his mouth that little bit of extra feel. The coloring of his armor, we're going to use our Corn Red as our base today. He's got a little bit of bone hidden on him, and we'll get to that when we get to that. We're going to use a Ushabti bone. Somewhere in there, as always, we will do some Agrax Earthshade and Malnoil, because why not shade when you can? And we're going to use Dawnstone with our Mechanicus Standard Grey base to make a stone hammer today. Oops, I forgot we're going to need some Xandri Dust for our wrappings to kind of make those stand out. And we're going to have to figure out a color for his cloak, or for his cloth around his legs. And I'm thinking he's got red. Let's make him a Christmas dwarf with some wog flesh. So, there is all of the colors we're going to be using today. I will figure out which one is the best one to start with. And we'll start painting him. And I think we're going to start with the biggest detail, and that will be his skin. Be right back. Alright, with that, the first color we're going to use today is our Bugman's Glow. That is our flesh tone. We're going to work with this today. And this one, you just want to go all over his flesh, wherever you see it. If you kind of schlop a little bit, yes, that is a special term, schlop. Don't be too bad. Or don't worry too much, because it is the base tone, so we're going to go over it a lot with all of our extra colors. But you want to get all of his face, his shoulders there, in between the musculatures right there and there. And he's actually fleshy all the way down into there. So I'm going to get working on that, clean that all up for you, and I'll be right back. And there we go, we have our first layer applied, and as you can see, even as much detail as there is on this man, he is still fairly naked, fairly fleshy. So the next thing we're going to do, we'll do these in stages like we've been doing. We're going to switch over to our Reichland Flesh Shade, still using our small layer brush, and we're going to shade every part of him. Pretty much everything that you painted pink or fleshy, go back over in flesh tone, and that's going to bring out the detail even more. So I'm going to get working on that, and I will show you what that looks like in a minute. There you go, and now we've got that all shaded in, and while that's dry, we'll move on to the next color. So the next one I think I'm going to do is the Abaddon Black base coat, and that is going to be for all of his hair. Some interesting things to note. Yes, his hair is, oops, let's put him on camera instead of off of camera as I point at things. He's got a large top knot here, down into here, and these strappings are actually hair from his ginormous dwarven beard that actually starts here and goes down and around underneath his armpits. One thing I'm pointing out that I made a mistake on, and that'll get covered up in a different color, and this is why it doesn't matter if you're a little bit sloppy at first, is this right here, I've realized, or at least I've decided, is a large forearm bandage. So I'm going to just paint that, our Corn Red, when we get that far. So, on to the Abaddon or Abaddon Black. We're just going to paint all of the hair. Be right back, show you what that looks like when it's done. And with that, we've got our hair done. Like I said, as you can see, his hair wraps around his body almost like a set of clothing, actually. So the next thing that we're going to do is null oil. And this time we're going to null oil in 2 spots. We're going to null oil his hair. But we're also going to do the helmet, or the head of the hammer, so that we can start working on turning that into stonework. So we're going to cover that all in null oil. Then we're also going to do the hair. Make sure you're a little careful, more careful with the null oil on this time. You don't want to get too much on the skin. And I'm going to clean that all up, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And with that, we have the next stage done, which is the null oiling of the hair and of the hammerhead. The next color we're going to move to is the corn red. Ready to have that on my palette, all ready to start showing you what we're going to do. Any of the, excuse me, any of the armoring here, I'm going to color red. We're also going to color red back here on these plates. I'm going to do this gauntlet here. And finally, we'll do this here as well. And there's a couple of spots we got. So I'm going to just kind of play color or paint by numbers here for you real quick. Do that one there, that one there, that one there, that one there. So I'm going to clean that all up for you, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're all done. Oh, and let's not forget the piece up here. So I'm going to clean that all up for you guys, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Be right back. There we go. We now have the red base toned down. We're going to go over that with Agrax Earthshade. I also decided that I like this red, so I'm going to put it on his shield. And he's going to, you know, just be matching his shield. All of his body armor was bought from the same, let's say, craftsman. So we're going to go over now with an Agrax Earthshade, which is that walnut brown shade. We're going to shade in all of the parts that we just did red. And then we're going to move on to the leather base, because that's going to be the next largest color that we're going to do, and that's going to be our XV88. So I'll kind of give you a heads up what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this all in one big group, and I'll come back and show you when it's done. For leather wrappings, we're going to do the wrappings around his hair, the wrappings around his arms, the leather that goes from the metal part in the front of the belt to the metal part in the back of the belt. The pouches on his back, I think that's going to be it. And yeah, so I'll show you what that all looks like in a minute. I'll be right back. So there we go. We've now had the leather added to all of the miniature. I also went ahead and grabbed some Mornfang Brown and just did the tip and the tip or the bottom of the wood shaft that goes through the hammer there. As you can see, I've also gone through and I've inked with our null oil right away, which has severely darkened down, except when I forget to do the pieces around his head. So I'll quick do that for you guys now. We did make a color change that I'm adding right now. There we go. Did that up there, but we do all of that, and that. That's what you hear there. You'll have to excuse my assistant who's opening bags of chips in the background. That is the bags you're hearing opening. So we did like leather sheaths on the on there. So I did mention that we're doing a slight color change. We are going to add in some lead belcher, which is our standardized silver, and we're going to use that to do all of our edging of the metal that we got on here. And the biggest part that we're going to use it on is right here on his shield. So I'm going to go and crack on that, and I'll be right back and show you what that looks like. With that, we have our silverish things done. I did the spike on his shield, all of the shield there. We did all of the edging on the armor plating. I also went ahead and stuck my tentacle pink or pink horror color in his mouth so that his mouth is colored. So the next one we're going to move on to is Retributor armor, and I'm going to use that to do all of the metal on the weapons, all of the hilts, and as well as, you can see it, the metal in the on the sheaths. So I'll quick crack that out and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. With that, we are nearing completion with our base coats and first layers. I've touched up silver up here. You see the gold on all of that. All that's left is to do his cloak, and I've chosen to do it in wog flesh. It is a orcish green. And all we're looking to do is cover all of this cloak back here. It'll kind of make him look like a Christmas dwarf. So, as I do it off camera, and you can't even see what I'm doing. That's fun when you do a painting video and you forget to put the camera in the way. So I'm going to clean that all up, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Alright, I've gone and put my null oil on top of that green right away, and then I also used my shabti bone and did the one little bone piece that is right there. With that, you have what I would consider a very nice tabletop quality miniature. But of course that is not the way we do things here. Nice and tabletop, while wonderful, do not get us, awesome. So the next thing we're going to do while we're waiting for that green to dry, or the black on the green to dry, is move to Arcadian flesh tone. That's the next higher level flesh we're going to use. And we're going to start bringing up this flesh of the dwarf so that he's not so sunburnt looking, as I was told by my assistant. He said he looked good, but he looks sunburnt. So I'm going to clean that all up, and I'll show you what the non-sunburnt dwarf looks like in a minute. And with that, our pit fighter berserker no longer looks to be sunburnt. He's got much more body to his coloring. I don't know what else though. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to go with Dawnstone, and this one we're going to do a dry brushing of. So, and if you're unfamiliar with dry brushing, what you want to do, get yourself a good stiff brush. We're going to put a little bit of paint on the brush, and using our paper towel here, we're going to knock off most of that. What we want to do with this is we're just trying to pick up the highlights and the edges here. So we don't want a lot of paint to come on. It's just to pick up the high spots of our miniature and the piece that we're dry brushing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush this, and I'm probably going to dry brush a little bit into his hair, just to kind of give it some highlights. So I'll be right back and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, with that we've got our Dawnstone dry brushed onto our hammer hilt, a little bit onto his hair, as you can see there. It kind of gives him that old man look, which I think looks just kind of cool. I did notice as I picked out, as I was picking out the hair, that he's got a couple of rings holding his mustache beard thing out of the way. So I've put those in Retributor Armor Gold. I went back through with some of our wog flesh, and I did a highlighting of the cloak here to kind of just bring that up a little bit. I'm not going to highlight, I think. I lied. I'm going to highlight it right now. The sleeve, so I guess we're going to do the sleeve real quick because I like the way that looks. And then that's it. This was a pretty simple model to do. He's got a lot of flat spots, so not a lot of highlighting edges needed. And with that, we've got them all done. Now remember, your board game models are going to be sitting at about this distance. So if it looks good at this distance, that's all that really matters. This has been another Jafo Paints video. Thanks. We'll see you next time.